Hello, this is Mrs. Pickett, and we are going to take notes on our last section. This is lesson 1.9. So make sure that you put your heading down either on this note sheet or in your notebook. So we are almost finished with Unit 1. You guys have been doing a great job. The last thing we're going to talk about are inequalities, and we've been talking about this in class a little bit. But now we're going to talk about how to graph an inequality on a number line. So there's a couple rules that you need to remember. All right, so we're going to jump right in. The first rule is we're going to use an open circle. Okay, so an open circle, so not filled in, and that is if we have a less than or a greater than sign. So just a less than or greater than sign by itself. We're going to use a closed circle, so closed means filled in. That's if we have a less than or equal to, greater than or equal to sign, okay? So open circle looks like this. Closed circle means that it is filled in, okay? And that's pretty much the rule. So if we're going to start here, we're just starting with graphing. So if we could do a couple examples. So it says x is less than 3. So the key here is to look at your symbol. Since it is just less than, that means I'm going to have an open circle. So I'm going to go to my number line where 3 is. And actually, I'm going to enlarge this a little bit. It's easier for me to draw then. Okay, so I'm going to go where 3 is, and I'm going to do an open circle. Okay, and now if it's less than, you shade the direction of your arrow or the way that it's talking. So it says x has to be less than, so that means numbers have to be smaller. And so we're going to shade behind. Okay? Or you can draw your arrow, but I would just, you can shade. That's fine. Okay? Now, if we do, let's look at number 2. So now I have a greater than symbol at -1. So I'm going to go to -1, and I'm going to, whoops, not with a highlighter. We're going to have an open circle at -1, and now since x has to be greater than, we're going to shade to the right. So any of those values, so x can be any number that's greater than -1. So 2, 3, 4, 5.5, 6.28, all of those would be greater than -1. Okay, those are our solutions. Let's look at number 4, give you a little bit different one. Now this one says less than or equal to, so this is going to tell me that I need a closed circle. So I'm going to go to -5. I'm going to draw my circle, and now I'm going to shade it in. Okay? Since it's less than or equal to, that means I can include -5, because -5 is equal to -5. Now since it's less than, I need to shade to the left. All right? So that's it for graphing. Now let's go to the reverse. Now I'm giving you the graph, and I want you to write the inequality that's being shown. So you can see clearly it's an open circle here. So that means I'm going to have just a less than or greater than. And then we look at where it's shading. Since it's shading to the left, it's behind, the numbers are getting smaller. That means I'm going to say that x is less than -2. Okay? All this is that you are reading the graph and that you can interpret it, okay? Whoops. Okay, so if we look at, let's look at number 7 here, just because I have it pulled up. So now look, I have a closed circle. So that means it's going to be either less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. Since we are shading to the left, the numbers are getting smaller. So that means x is going to be less than or equal to 0. Okay, let's jump over here and look at number 8. I have an open circle. So that's going to be just less than or greater than, and then we're going to look and determine. Oops. Okay, we are going to the right, so now the numbers are getting larger. That means that x, okay, has to be greater than, and this is at -3. That's it. So we've covered 2 parts so far, how to, if I give you an inequality, how to graph it on a number line, and the reverse of that, if I give you the number line, the graph of it, that you should be able to write the inequality. So let's look at our last part here. Let me minimize this out. So rules for when we solve inequalities, okay? So when you solve an inequality, here's what you have to remember. You have to flip the inequality symbol when you multiply or divide by a negative number. Everything else is the exact same as if we were solving an equation. We just did two-step equations. Now we're going to do two-step inequalities, okay? So remember on the equations where the equal sign was, we drew our t-graph. You're going to do the same thing. Now you're going to locate your less than or greater than sign. We're going to draw our t-graph. That's where it separates our inequality. And you're going to do the same operations. So addition and subtraction, they're inverses. They undo each other. Multiplication and division, inverses. They undo each other. So find your variable. Right there's my x. So I'm going to solve for that. So I want to subtract 2 from both sides. Now we have 3x is less than negative 4 minus 2. That's going to give me a negative 6. Now over here to finish solving, I want to divide by 3. Now remember the rule is you flip the inequality symbol only if you have to multiply or divide by a negative number. We're dividing by 3, which is positive. Okay, this number is positive, so we do not need to flip anything. So my answer is going to be x is less than negative 2. Once you get your inequality, now the last step is to graph it on a number line. Since it's just less than, all right, we will have an open circle. So now on the number line, you need to put a couple numbers either, so like let's have 0, 1, 2, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. I just put some numbers on there. So you're going to write your numbers in. And then x was at negative 2, so I'm going to have an open circle at negative 2. And since x is less than, I'm going to shade to the left. Okay, that's it. Let's look at one more here. We'll look at number 10, and we'll do more in class tomorrow. So the first thing, we're going to separate our inequality. I'm going to locate my variable, and now I want to start solving it. So the first thing is I'm going to subtract 2. So those are going to cancel out. So now I have x divided by 6 is greater than negative 3. And then to solve this, since it was division, I'm going to multiply both sides by 6. And so I get for my answer that x is greater than negative 18. Now I need to graph that on a number line. So I'm going to put my numbers in. So let's do negative 18. This would be a negative 19, negative 20, negative 21. If I go this way, it's 17, negative 16, negative 15. Okay? Now, x is greater than. It's just a greater than symbol. There is no equal to. So I'm going to go to 18. I'm going to have an open circle. And since it's greater than, I'm going to shade to the right. Okay? So this is it. Just basic rules for solving inequalities and how to graph them. Make sure you have this copied when you come into class tomorrow. And then we'll do some activities at the beginning. And then if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. All right? I hope you guys have a great night.